sir.
What time am I on? The rules report.
So um, you're pretty early on. We'll have a few introductions, and then I'll talk about debate procedures. So when I start talking about that, come on up. Yeah, and just wait off the side. And I'll try to remember to invite you and Julie to come on up. Because, yeah.
Am I going first?
That's what I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I just changed up. I've done it before, so.
All right. Well, I appreciate that you are, looking to save time and be ready. And
No, that's great.
all right.
Wes told me it runs smoother with the script.
Probably does.
Even though I know the rules report was handed out, or was part of the pre-conference handbook, do you know if it's handed out?
If it's part of pre-conference, more than likely not be handed
I guess
out.
no, it was a supplement to the pre-conference handbook. It was not actually in there.
Oh. Is that? Do you know what section it is?
I would have to
Good morning. Good morning. The peace of Christ be with you. Thanks be to God. Welcome. Good to see you, bright and shining today. We have to shine inside because it's not going to shine outside. Reminder that this is the 144th session of the Pacific Northwest Annual Conference, and I welcome you all.
Anything else?
Any instructions? I don't think so. So at the head table are John Short, who's our agenda chair for Pacific Northwest, and Shirley Delarme, who is our conference secretary. And we're really going to keep you moving during this conference. These are going to be short sessions, short PNW session, followed by a short shared session, followed by a short Oregon, Idaho session.
It's all about me.
Oh, man. It's going to be like that, huh, John? And so to prepare us for the work that we have before us this morning, our agenda chair, John Short, is going to talk to us about the procedures for considering the work.
Thank you, Bishop. And as I do so, I would invite those that are prepared to make the preliminary report for the Rules Committee and the Nominations Committee to come forward and be on deck. But I want to call your attention to those wonderful little white packets that are on the table in front of you. If you want to open them up and take a look at what's inside, folks who have been part of annual conference for many years are familiar with these packets, but want to step through the packets and the things that are in it to help us with our procedures and our debate. And so you'll see several cards in there. A lovely bright yellow card that says "for." And so if you are interested in speaking in favor of a motion or a petition, if you would raise your card and wait for the bishop to acknowledge you, the bishop will then tell you what microphone to proceed to. You're invited to state your name and your ministry setting, whether you're lay or clergy, and then speak for the motion. If you would like to speak against the motion, similar procedure, only a different colored card, the one that says against. I know it's not terribly difficult, but we do want to make this clear. If you want to amend or make another motion, then there is the blue card for you to raise, and again, the bishop will acknowledge you and tell you what microphone to go to. Please do not stand and move to a microphone until you are acknowledged. Then there is a white card, and some of them may say point of order and question, and some might have a third thing on there that says personal privilege. Please ignore the ones that say personal privilege. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. These cards we are basically using for folks that have a point of order that they want to acknowledge or a question about the motion. And so raise a white card, and again, the bishop will acknowledge you and tell you what microphone to proceed to. Because we are having so many short sessions, thank you. I'll be here all weekend, yes. We're asking that you not do personal privilege from the floor, but if you would like to ask for a moment of personal privilege, if you would write a note and have a page bring that to me, then we will look and see if we have time to acknowledge your personal privilege and invite you to speak on that. But if you would please do that for honoring the entire body, that would be very helpful. And then the last card would be a green card that says page. If for some reason there are things that we are talking about up here and you don't have a piece of paper or something that pertains to what we're doing, we invite you to raise the green card, and the pages will look for that and come and take care of you and bring you what you need. The last thing in the packet that I would like to highlight is the form that is in triplicate. If you want to make an amendment to a motion, it is very helpful to our secretary if you would write that down and bring that forward so that we have a record of that. See what?
Where do they find those?
And these should be in the packets as well. Yeah. If you happen to write so many that you run out, please, you could borrow from a table next door, or the pages should have some extras of these as well. But that, unless there's any other questions, that's how we hope to handle our debating as we're in our time together.
Any questions for clarification? Okay. So we're going to turn to the Rules Committee to bring a report of recommendations that we'll be considering later. Welcome. Shane Moore.
My name is Shane Moore. I am clergy serving in Pullman, Washington, and I come to you this morning as chair of the Rules Committee. If you were on the website and you printed off your materials, the initial report of the Rules Committee was there to find. And today, my job is to present the initial report. We will come back at the end of our plenary session and approve the items as needed. So this morning, I am just going to take you through these items. Part 1 is in regards to petition 14 in your pre-conference handbook, section C10. If passed by us, if this petition is passed, the Rules Committee will change Rule 7, Section 3D as proposed in the Rules Report. Part 2 are rule changes considered by the committee upon request and submitted directly to the conference for vote. There are 6 different actions there. I'm not going to run through each of these actions individually, but we'll answer any questions if there are any on these.
Are there questions? I see none. Thank you.
And then part 3, these are corrections to the rules considered by the committee to make grammatical changes and also changes to reflect previous rules and to update our Book of Discipline paragraph numbers. These are submitted at the end to the annual conference without vote, but we do like you to know where changes are being made in our conference rules. If you have any questions, please feel free to find me or another member of the Rules Committee. Our members are Cody Natlin, Doug Wood, Robin Pentland, and Jim Odian. I know not everyone's here, but a majority of our committee is here. So if there's no other questions, I present the initial report.
Thank you, Shane. It's before you, and we will come back to it in a later session for action. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. We're turning now to Julie Reinholtz for the presentation of the nominating committee report.
Good morning. My name is Julie Reinholtz. I'm the Seven Rivers District Superintendent and the chair or the bishop's representative to the nominations committee. The 2016 final report was on the website, and that is our beginning space and our beginning place for the changes that will be happening. There is also on the website the initial changes that I have. I present that to you this morning, and if there are more changes, please email me, jcreinholtz@gmail.com, or hand them to me, or hand them to Rich Lang, who will be my replacement at the end of this conference. We will update that as we can, and we will present that at a later date.
All right, this is before you. Are there any questions? Then you will talk to Julie if you have any after the fact.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Julie. We turn now to Jan Kalshin and Brant Henshaw. Oh, no, Peter Perry, not Jan Kalshin, Peter Perry and Brant Henshaw to present the Council on Finance and Administration report budget.
Good morning.
Morning.
Every day I feel blessed to come to work and deal with numbers for both the annual conference and for the local churches. It's not for everybody, but I love it. And there's a few hands up there that go right on. We have a tremendous team in the Treasurer's office doing work on your behalf, covering issues around insurance, our insurance program, property issues, financial standards and practices, pensions, benefits, new church starts, safe sanctuary work, camping accounting, and the occasional legal situations. We have a great team that works hard at that every day. We are a resource, and I want all of you as members to go back to your local church, and if you have trustees or finance people that ever have a question about should we do it that way, to give Rick or I a call, and we'd be happy to help you out and walk you through what best practices are. My written report starts in your pre-conference handbook on page B49 and runs through B53. It's there for you. There's some narrative budget work and different ways of describing what we do. But I want to dispel some popular belief that the conference budget is always on the increase. Actually, 9 of the last 10 years, we've had a decreasing conference budget. And over the last 6 years, the conference budget is 17% smaller than it was. 2 years ago, when I first addressed this body, I explained that about 8% of a local church apportionment was the over-apportionment done for those churches that were not able to pay their full amount for various reasons. I also explained that if all of our churches moved towards 100%, that would come down. And in those 2 years, we have gone, I've lost my spot. So what happened is this. Our apportionment rate has gone up in those last 2 years from 89% to 93%. And at the same time, and that means that over-apportionment number has dropped from 8% to under 5%. In your pre-conference handbook on page 54 and 55, B54 and 55, you'll find a listing of all the churches that paid 100%. I want to say thank you for your commitment to the connection. Your DSs have a certificate for each of you, and they will be getting those out to you during conference or soon after. At the same time that apportionments have been going up, we have dropped the budget. We have taken $500,000 out of the budget. Now, that doesn't all fall to the local church, unfortunately, because as we have church closures, that apportionment money gets redistributed, but it is on a downward trend. I do want you to know that of every dollar that you give in apportionments, about 34% goes back to the local church in some form and fashion through a grant or other form of support. I want to give a big shout out to all of the trustees and treasury people in each of the local churches. It's sometimes viewed as a thankless job. Trustees are sometimes viewed as just the people you call when the toilet doesn't work or the gutters need cleaning. But they have a lot of responsibility around the legal care and position of the church. I also want to thank the treasurers in the churches where we've embedded new church starts. They've taken on additive administrative work in order to help those churches launch. And lastly, I'd like to thank the members of the Connectional Table, CFNA, and the trustees for the work they've done over the past year. I ask you all for prayers for these groups of people as they grapple with the challenges facing the annual conference. They have some very deep, tough decisions to make in the coming years as we move into our future. And now I'd like to introduce Peter Perry, who's the vice chair of CFNA, to present the budget and put it before you.
Thank you, Brant. Good morning, Bishop. Good morning, church. It is a privilege after just 3 years in the annual conference to be put in charge of vice. Jan couldn't be here, and so this task falls to me to present the budget. You'll find it on section D2. It's the main task, of course, of the CFA is to put this document together. It is a document that empowers ministry across our conference. It's not the only thing that we've been working on this year. One of the other responsibilities, the fiduciary responsibilities of the Council on Finance Administration, is to make sure that the reserve funds are well used. And this year has seen an opportunity for our team to work together to create new investment policies that are designed to fully support our desire to be socially responsible investors in this annual conference. And we're pleased that that process has moved forward and your money is well and justly invested. We also worked a little bit on this budget, working with Connectional Table and CFA in what, from my perspective as a newcomer, is a rather admirable way of developing the budget. It was done with great sense of collegiality and support. The budget is before you on that section, $527,138 in total, which is a reduction from the current year's budget of just under 1%, 0.96%. We'll have an opportunity later on in the conference to work more on this budget, and it is before you now for your consideration and adoption later on this annual conference. Bishop?
All right, now I'm just going to check with my agenda chair. It looks to me like we have time to consider genuine questions for clarification. Sure. Isn't that right? We're doing all right with the agenda. So this is before you, and this would be the time for you to ask any questions for clarification on the budget. Not debate. We're not going to go into debate, but it is the time to make sure that you understand what's reflected in the budget that you'll be voting on later in the week, or later tomorrow. Are there questions?
Brant tells me I misspoke. It's $5 million, not 500,000.
You're not in Alaska anymore.
That's right.
But we are glad you're here. Any questions? Yes, microphone 6.
Clergy,
Say again, please.
Kathy Neary, Clergy, Seven Rivers District. On page, D14, the Office of Connectional Ministries budget is listed there, 1.086 million. I asked if we could have some details on that 1.86 million. I'm not sure if that's forthcoming or not.
We could pull that detail out and have it available at the focus session on Friday.
Thank you.
And I'm going to recognize microphone 5. I'm going to remind everyone, though, that you're to stand where you are seated and get recognized and then move to the microphone. I think that was the instruction. Is that correct?
Sorry about
Microphone
that.
5. No problem.
Jenny Phillips, Valley and Mountain. You mentioned that you are working to change your policies to do our investing so that it is fully socially responsible and reflecting the values of the conference. I wondered if you could tell us more about that, and specifically if you are planning to transition to Westpath's suite of fossil-free funds, which will be available at the end of the year.
Thank you, Jenny. Yes, that is the detail. The investment committee first set out to establish a broad policy that was reflective of both the actions of annual conference last year around fossil-free investing and socially responsible investing. We are working with Westpath as a mechanism for doing that investment, and we will be into those funds and meeting the deadline of January 1st for compliance with annual conference from last year.
Are there other questions? While you're thinking if there are other questions, we're just going to note that Jenny's going to go do this advocacy with the General Board of Global Ministries starting right away. So we send you as a missionary. I know they send missionaries, but we send you as a missionary. Are there other questions? All right, well, you've seen Peter and you've seen Brant, and if questions come up before this comes before us for discussion and adoption, find them in the halls and ask your questions. All right, thank you. We're turning now. Nancy Tam Davis and David Valera are going to bring to us the consent calendar of items that were considered, and you're going to explain how those came before us. So, and you're going to tell us where to find it too, right?
Yes, Bishop. Bishop and members of this conference, good morning. I greet you in the name of Christ. I am David Valera. I am serving as your Director of Connectional Ministries, and it's an honor for me to be in front of you to present and first of all explain what a process is, because it's a little different this year. Last year, almost 2 years ago, our Rules Committee already anticipated what was going to happen this year and set some rules so that we can be flexible. And so one of the challenges is people always call us and say, well, we've never done it that way before. So let me explain where we are in that. We've never done it that way before. First, handouts you might have, I refer to the pre-conference handbook. It's going to look like this, which has your petitions 1 and following. It should be under section C13 in your pre-conference handbook. By the way, I just want to note, as you're looking for it, I just want to note that this is the first year that when we asked people how many want actual copies of the pre-conference handbook, we had less than 15 people of the hundreds of those who come to the conference to ask for a printed copy. So I think that's something to celebrate in line with our creation care need to care for our creation. The other piece that you need to be aware of is now the handout that was in your table. That's when you arrived in. And it should say consent calendar, report 1A. And then middle of that page, it says items for individual action. How did we get to this? Well, when all the petitions came in April 15, they were processed they were reviewed by the Rules Committee, and then after the Rules Committee reviewed them, made sure that we have not acted on these before, or are there current rules already that are relating to this, and does it have budget implications? That's what the Rules Committee did, which I want to thank Shane Moore for the leadership of the Rules Committee in guiding us. After that, 2 weeks later, the connectional table and the Council on Finance Administrator received this to work on what is now in your hand as your in your pre-conference handbook. Hence, you have the consent calendar. From the consent calendar, that's what we're going to be presenting to you today through the chairperson, co-chairperson, Nancy Tam Davis, and they will be today. Thursday, we will be working on all that went to the pre-conference handbook, which is, the consent calendar in the pre-conference handbook. However, there were late-breaking petitions that came in, and how we dealt with that is we set a meeting yesterday for the connectional table and Council on Finance and Administration to deal with those late-breaking petitions. Hence, the single sheet, those are late-breaking petitions that we worked on yesterday. So can I ask the connectional table and CFA who are here to please stand up just so we could recognize them? Would you thank me? Let's thank these folks who worked on this yesterday. Now, this is where the paper works, where Craig Parrish always reminds me, I always need my pencil and my yellow sheet. So we made sure you have copies in your table for the single sheet. If you could take out a pen to help us with the process of when we're going to deal with these. When you go report 1, report 1B, and report number 1 in the items for individual action, I would ask you to draw a line right there, like so, right here. Yeah, before report 1 and number 2 under the items for individual action. And the reason for this is everything that's above the line will be dealt with on Friday, tomorrow, at 11 a.m. The ones below, report number 2, which is petition L4, the closure of Grand Coulee, and the petition L5, the closure of Spokane Central, we will deal with them today. All right? Bishop, those are the instructions. That's how our workflow will be between today and tomorrow. So with that said, I present this workflow to you, Bishop, and for the body.
So I'm a little lost.
Okay.
So I have the sheet that everybody has on their table before them, and it has report 1A and report 1B. And I have in my notebook on page C13 something called report number 1A and report number 1B that are not the same.
Okay, good question. Good catch on that, Bishop. She's really good. She's
I
the
can
one.
get confused really well.
Why? So here's what we can do. I see this, and this is again, we take ownership for the mistake on this. So in report 1A, in that section that we put up there, we'd probably put the date just so we're clear as to which report. And can we just add the date today, which is 6/15. Report 1A 6/15. If you could do that. Remember the box we lined up there, so we can clarify that for now. We will correct this as it will go to the journal, and make sure that they are properly numbered. For our purposes today, I would just add those dates to 6/15 for report 1A, 1B, and number 1, and then the line below the single sheet that we're given for report number 2. Can we say 6/16? Report number 2, 6/16, because those are the dates when we will be dealing with them tomorrow. And there's report number 2 and report number 3. Oh, sorry. See, I'm moving on to perfection. So it's the other way around, folks. If I just confused you, 6/16 is the one on the top, and 6/15 is the one today. Thank you, Bishop.
So is somebody going to make a motion here that clarifies what's before us today?
Yes.
Is that you, Nancy?
That would be Nancy.
That would be Nancy.
A pathfinder.
Nancy Tam Davis, conference lay leader. And I would like to present the consent calendar. I will read these briefly. Petition number 1, election of conference secretary and global ministries. Jamaletu orphanages, petition 2, JLO in the Congo. Petition number 3, HIV and AIDS education to dispel myths. Petition number 4, Cairo's Palestine Document Task Force. Cairo's Palestine Document, a moment of truth. Petition number 5, amendment of the Articles of Incorporation and Bylaws of Wesley Homes. Petition number 6, Commission on Equitable Compensation Recommendation on Minimum Compensation. Petition number 7, Moving Allowance. Petition number 8, Board of Pension Recommendations Past Service Pension Rate. Petition 9, Retirement Annuity Responsibility. Petition 10, Retirement Grants. Petition 11, Disability Benefits. Petition 12, Divestment from Fossil Fuels. Petition number 14, Rule 7, Section 3, parentheses D, change. You all understood that, right? Okay. Petition 15, reduce number of districts from 6 to 5. And I present these to you now.
All right. Yes, I see a white card here. If you go to microphone 4, or, yeah, 4.
West Stanton clergy, Tracyton, Brownsville. I am wondering what the procedure is for asking for any matter to be removed from the consent calendar.
So in your conference rules, page N13, this is in the journal from 2016. This would be rule number 5, section 4, E2. Got to make sure which subsection I'm on. 3. And Wes didn't warn me this was coming. In order to remove an item from the consent calendar for debate during the plenary session, 10 signatures of conference members must be presented on the appropriate form, which is available from the secretary. As soon as I can get your picture, yeah. We will accept it if it's not on the proper form. Is that fair? Okay. To the conference secretary before the focus session begins its report in the plenary session.
Mhm.
Yes?
I would ask that we could defer voting on the consent calendar until the conference has had an opportunity to submit requests for removal from the consent calendar.
I didn't hear a motion there, so I'm going to ask clarification. I presume you all can clarify how the consent calendar was available to us and at what time. Can either of you respond to that question?
Yes, Bishop. The consent calendar, the one has been in the pre-conference handbook when we sent that out more than 2 weeks ago. However, the only late-breaking ones that are in your tables that were handed out today. So that's the one that the connection table and CFA worked on yesterday. So Wes, I'm trying to find out if you're trying to pull something from that what was sent in the pre-conference handbook, or is it from yesterday?
All of the items on the consent calendar on either the handout or the pre-conference handbook.
So Wes, can I ask, are you contending that distribution of it 2 weeks of the items in the handbook 2 weeks ago was not adequate notice?
Actually, it does feel like it's not adequate notice to consider the consent calendar very first thing in annual conference. When I went to ask if there was a form available from the secretary, there were not forms yet available for removing things from the consent calendar.
Okay. So I think you've made your point, but I don't think you can make a motion at this point.
No, I'm requesting it from you.
Well, I think that's up to the body. So if nobody comes to a microphone, I'm going to take that as an indication that the body is not interested in deferring. I did have one person contact me by mail to get the form ahead of time. My name is putting forms now. So I'm going to recognize over here, and while you're coming to microphone 3, I'm going to say that the secretary reports that there was request for the form by somebody in the body who did look at the consent calendar prior to our convening, and I don't know if they ever turned it in, but so there has been opportunity to respond to the consent calendar. Yes, please, microphone 3.
Bruce Smith, Yakima Wesley. I needed you to restate what you'd asked us to show support for what Wes is asking.
Well,
I'm confused.
okay, let me explain where we are.
Okay.
Wes asked a question, asked that I voluntarily defer action on this so there's more time to look at these and bring requests to remove from the consent calendar. I said I don't have a motion. I think it's up to the body to determine whether it wants to defer action or whether it's ready to act. And if it's not ready to act, then I assume someone's going to go to a microphone with a motion. Is that clear?
Kind of. Yeah, okay. Do you need a motion?
The way to defer action is to make a motion to defer action.
I move to defer.
All right. Is there a second? All right. Now I want to just see. There were some cards up. Do you still want to be recognized? Okay. All right. The motion to defer action, and is there a time on that? I want to ask Bruce, and we'll need that in writing. You'll need to fill out one of those motion forms.
Until our next scheduled plenary
Okay, until the
session.
next plenary. The motion is to defer until the next plenary, and I think I heard a second. Seconded. Are you ready to act on deferral? If you would defer, would you? Are we using cards? Okay. If you would defer, would you lift your hand? All opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? I believe it is deferred. That was fun.
Bishop,
So let's just clarify procedurally. The secretary will have forms by the end of this session or by the end of the shared session, do you think? I've texted in. Okay. So check with our secretary, Shirley, if you need a form.
I just
Mm-hmm.
two of the churches need to be worked on, though. If we're deferring all of it, then
Yeah, this is all you presented, so you can go ahead
We
with
can go
these.
ahead.
So, yeah. Mhm.
Mga kapatid, and mga kapatid is a translation of my siblings in Filipino, so let me just use that. I think it's much friendlier than saying sisters and brothers and all others. So I'll just say mga kapatid. We do have a little wrinkle now that we have done this action, so I need to represent report number 2 in your sheet, because these are 2 closures of churches, and we're going to have a worship tonight that's going to celebrate. If we are not going to vote on any of these, I don't know where we are going to stand with that in our formal work as a conference.
Well, it's not just those 2, David, right? It's also
Yes,
it's also
these churches and the individual action churches, which Brant will come back again later to present to us, but I just want to make sure.
So let me clarify. In the consent now the 2 that were just circulated on your sheet at your place were not in the motion. It's not my understanding that those were in the motion to defer that we just acted on. However, petitions 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 were in the action to defer. Yes? Go to microphone 4.
I'm sorry, Bishop West Stanton again. I thought we only deferred the consent calendar, which.
Thank you.
You're right.
Thank you. So I think you just need to present
Yes.
the closures.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thanks for the clarification.
Now, items for individual action. Petition number 13, resolution to restore the practice of sharing the costs of our work together.
Does everybody know where we are? I'm in page C15.
Bottom of the page.
Petition 13 at the bottom of the page.
And this is the recommendation for that is to refer to CF&A.
All right, petition number 13, report number 1, resolution regarding sharing costs of our work. The motion before you is to refer to CF&A. Is there discussion? Seeing none, if you would adopt petition 13, report number 1, please lift your hand. All opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? It is adopted.
Report number 2, petition number 16, Rockland Zion closure.
All right, we're now on page C16. And you want to make the motion, the action motion?
Yes.
Just move adoption. Great. Pardon? Move adoption.
Okay. I move adoption.
All right, petition 16, report number 2 is before you. Is there discussion? Seeing none, if you would approve, lift your hand. All opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? I'm just aware we do this. There's a somberness about this, and we will lift this in worship this evening and honor these churches. and just say thanks to God and to the faithful people who have kept them open. So I just want you to know we're not just acting on these and moving on. We'll cycle back to this in a pastoral way. Right?
Okay. And we will have a prayer of blessing and remembrance for all of these church closures. Whitebird United Methodist Church closure. I move adoption.
All right, it's before you. Is there discussion? We're on petition 17. All who would approve, lift your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? It is adopted. Thank you.
Petition number 18, Everett Spirit of Grace United Methodist Church closure. I move adoption.
All right, this is before you. Is there discussion? All who would approve, lift your hand. All opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? It is adopted.
Petition number 19, Walla Walla Grace United Methodist Church. I move adoption.
This motion is before you. Is there discussion? I'm going to switch it up. If you approve, say yes. All opposed, say no. Any abstentions? It is approved. Thank you.
Petition number 20, Tacoma Fern Hill United Methodist Church. I move closure. I move adoption.
All right, this is before you. If you approve, lift the hand. All opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? It is approved.
Petition number 21, Olympia Korean United Methodist Church closure. I move adoption.
This is before you. Is there discussion? If you would approve, say yes. All opposed, say no. Any abstentions? It is approved. Thank you. And now you're going to go back, are you, to the two that are on the sheet in front of us?
Report number 2, petition L4, closure of Grand Coulee United Methodist Church. I move adoption.
This is before you. Is there discussion? If you would approve, say yes. Those opposed, say no. Any abstentions? It is approved.
And petition number L5, closure of Spokane Central United Methodist Church. I move adoption.
This is before you. Are there questions? If you would approve, say yes. All opposed, say no. Any abstentions? It is adopted. Thank you. Yeah. We turn now to the Dean of the Cabinet, David Nieta, to lead us in prayer for these congregations and their faithful service.
We do want to offer these ministries in prayer, celebrate them, and lift them up for the impact that they made in our world. So let us be in prayer. God, you who authored the circle of life, we give thanks for these ministries that have come to their faithful completion and are now ready to chart new courses, to give new life to new ministries in and around their community and beyond. We give you thanks for Rockland Zion, for Whitebird, for Everett Spirit of Grace, for Walla Walla Grace, for Tacoma Fern Hill, for Olympia Korean, for Grand Coulee, for Spokane Central. Lord, these churches are filled with your servants who have given themselves, their toil and their sweat to see your kingdom built. We're so thankful for their witness. We're so thankful for their legacy. We're so thankful that we may know them and call them brother and sister. We are a connectional church, God. And what happens anywhere in the connection impacts us deeply. And so it is with humility and thankfulness that we allow these churches to come to their faithful completion, and that we bless their ministries. God, help us all to continue in their legacy in our ministry as we press forward to seek your kingdom, your will, where we are located and where we are sent. We give you thanks, God. Amen.
Amen. And thank you. Following that prayer, I just want to note that I just arrived in September. So, I've been gone for 8 years from the Pacific Northwest, and things have changed a lot. And I want to give tribute to the superintendents who work with these churches that are in a life cycle pattern, and the care with which these decisions are made and the pastoral way in which these closures occur. The conference doesn't decide. Almost never does the conference decide to close a church. That's a rare and a very exceptional thing. But in consultation between conference leadership and leadership of local churches, these decisions are arrived at, usually not without pain, but in a deliberative, careful, respectful manner. And I hope that's reflected in the prayer, and it'll be reflected, I think, the way that we honor them tonight as well. So thank you all. Okay. So having deferred action, we have an opportunity and a little bit of a scrunch. So the scrunch is we now have more legislation for later sessions, and we have limited time in separate annual conference sessions to start with. So we're looking at the things that we might be able to move up to the next few minutes, and we'll just ask are the people with the Peace with Justice Award in the room and able to move that forward to this time? And is it possible to move the Asbury Award to this time? I'm looking in the room. Can either of those groups? Yes? Microphone 4. Microphone 4.
There I am. If you give me 5 minutes to go back to my room and get the award, the Asbury Award can go now.
Terrific, thank you. And how about Peace with Justice? Is there someone in the room representing the Peace with Justice Award? I don't see it, so yes? Microphone 3.
Ann Mayer, Federal Way. I, along with Dave Wright, I'm ready to do the Peace with Justice if Dave is in the room.
Is Dave Wright in the room? No. All right.
Then we're not ready.
Then we'll wait.
He has the award.
Thank you. So let me say that we've deferred action on a number of these consent calendar items. And if it is your intention to lift an item from the consent calendar for debate, it would be really helpful, even if you don't have all of your 10 signatures, to let the secretary or the agenda chair know so that we can have that information as we plan our best use of time going forward. Yes? Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. So we have a couple of videos that we have saved to for time if it became available, and we're going to show which one.
Something about gambling and Paul Jeffrey.
Yes, Patrick, help us out. Not gambling, camping. All right, we have videos. We have a report from Paul Jeffrey, who we know speaks, I won't say best, but speaks eloquently through picture. And we have a report from camping, and we'll, as soon as we can cue those up, we'll receive those. No? I see Patrick really quick.
There's a lot of things that I like about camp. Probably my favorite thing about camp is meeting new people and getting closer with God. Those are my two favorites.
I come back because I look forward to seeing the same people, either from my camp or the same counselors every year. And I feel more comfortable here talking about God and like exploring my faith than maybe like at my youth group back at home. I don't know why, I just do. I feel more comfortable and like accepted here.
It's the one place where I actually feel like centered and fully myself. And it's like my whole family comes here, like my camp family.
You gain another family, really. Like, you have your family at home. When you come to camp, you may only see those people for a week every year, but everyone's super friendly and you're just a family.
My favorite activity at camp is when we walk up the trail to the chapel and on the way back down, because it's so peaceful and you can hear everyone humming all the camp songs, and it's what I think of when I think about camp. Every day, like when you're at camp, you wake up and you just know that the whole entire day and the rest of the week is just going to be filled with one amazing activity after the other, and there's not like a single thing that I don't like at camp.
Since it's a place to be like unplugged and away from the internet and away from all the distractions of the world, just being outdoors and being like with the trees and being in like a quiet area, it's a lot easier to grasp the things that are being told to you and being taught to you.
I've been coming here since I was 7, and I haven't wanted to leave because the people, the community, the food, the activities, the views that you get.
I mean, it's worth it to be at this camp. It is amazing.
You'll make some of the best memories that you'll ever have.
Come to camp, definitely. 100%.
Are you ready with the next video, or shall I make an announcement? We'll make this announcement in the shared session as well, but there are driving instructions for getting to Vancouver First for the clergy sessions at the page table in the back of the room, if you'd like those.
Remind folks to carpool.
Thank you. We encourage you to carpool. And we're not going to organize that, and we're not going to tell you where to meet when. We think you know each other well enough to offer rides to people that you know or don't know. So just to make it easier and more collegial, getting across the river. All right, you ready? Great.
There are more refugees in the world today than at any time since World War II. Refugees are fleeing repression, conflict, and climate change, seeking a safe place to grow their crops and to raise their children. These are children of refugee families from South Sudan who fled civil war and famine for refuge in Uganda. They are surviving, indeed they're even thriving, thanks to the Global Health Unit of United Methodist Global Ministries, which supports life-saving work in refugee communities, providing safe drinking water and basic sanitation, as well as the delivery of medical care, including the treatment and prevention of malaria. The availability of safe water means women and girls no longer have to walk long distances. They can do other things. The delivery of health care, especially in remote locations far from clinics and hospitals, means healthy families are better able to support many of their own needs. Global Ministry supports prenatal care for refugee women.
It's painful. Is that painful? Okay.
As well as health education and critical medicines for their families. Because of Global Ministry's support, life for the refugees can go on. Uganda may not be their home, but at least for now, it's a safe place to live. Although far from home, the refugees can till and plant their small plots, growing food for their own use. There are many humanitarian crises in the world today, where ordinary people, their communities ravaged by war or drought, are engaged in extraordinary struggles to survive. With your help, the United Methodist Church can continue to accompany them until they return home in peace and unafraid.
Paul Jeffrey, would you stand up and let us say thank you to you for telling the story for so many years, so eloquently. Thank you. Another missionary that the Pacific Northwest sends to the Board of Global Missions, or lately the United Methodist Women, and around the world, really, to be in those amazing relationships and telling the story of people who are a long way away and very close to our hearts. So thank you, Paul. All right. I think we're ready. Oh. You know, and honestly, I was going to go back to the camping video. I want to see the hands of everybody that has ever been to one of the 4 camps in the conference. How many of you went to a camp as a young person? How many of you have been on a staff of a camp as an adult? Ah, it's good. It's good. Thank you very much. A lot of life goes on at camp, maybe too much. We're going to turn to Kendra Ben Smith for the Asbury, Kendra Ben for the Asbury Award. 8 years is a long time. Welcome.
Thank you, Bishop. The Board of Higher Education and Campus Ministries does a lot in the conference and across the connection. We support campus pastors both financially and as a listening ear. We help start programs, we help programs gracefully end. And what we have through the General Board is the Francis Asbury Award, which recognizes individuals who have made a significant contribution to fostering the church's ministry in higher education at the local, district, or annual conference level. It is named for Bishop Asbury, and it is based on his admonition to the people called Methodists to erect a school in the vicinity of every church. How are we doing with that? We must, he said, Give the key of knowledge to your children and those of the poor in the vicinity of your small towns and villages. We have on Beckham a woman who has done campus ministry for most of her adult life. She has helped groups start. She has helped campus pastors get their feet under them. She is our knowledge and our memory. She is a gift to us. And this year, we are delighted to present the Asbury Award for Campus Ministry to Margaret Ray. Peggy was supposed to be here. She is here. I can't see. There she is, Peggy. Yay. I know. That was part of the point. Thank you so much. All of you. Thank you. Your award letter as well? Say something. Wow.
I still remember back in 1958 going to the National United Methodist Student Conference. I have always believed that campus ministry is where we recruit the ministers, but also those dedicated lay people which stay in the church throughout their entire life and build our churches. This is where we enable people to make the kind of commitment that lasts a lifelong and grows into perfection. So thank you for your support of campus ministry, and please continue it.
Bishop, I wanted to join with David Reinholtz in singing. Last night was a wonderful installation service, but we have a special song that we sing for our bishop. I'm sure you're aware of it, but if you're not aware of the words for the song, they're on A8 of your pre-conference handbook, and David, if you would lead us in singing.
There was a perfect spot in the installation service that I so wanted to put the bishop's hymn in, because there's a place where it says, "Welcome your bishop." And I was waiting for Emery Peck to go rogue and jump up in the middle and start singing. But I talked her off the ledge. And this is a PNW tradition. It is not an Oregon, Idaho tradition, and we didn't want to impose that on them, but this is so part of who we are. And we just cannot help. We welcomed Bishop Elaine at the Western Jurisdiction Conference with this song, and it seems appropriate to welcome her today as we start our session together as the Pacific Northwest Conference. So I invite you to stand and join me in what we refer to as the Bishop's Hymn. And it'll start on about a note, Beloved, beloved, we are the children of God, and it does not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when God appears, we shall be like God, we shall be like God. We shall see God face to face. Come, O fount of every blessing, Tune my heart to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Beloved, beloved, we are the children of God, and it does not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when God appears, we shall be like God, we shall be like God. We shall see God face to face.
You all are too good. You know, that once was all of the bishops' hymn. All the conferences sang this. It was introduced at the Council of Bishops. I learned this recently. And in fact, they still sing it in one of the Ohio conferences as well. So we're keepers of one of those treasures from the past. All right, we are going to move into a break, and we're a few minutes early. So here's the deal. You all are sitting on most of you, on the far side of the tables, but we're going to fill these tables after the break. So I'm going to encourage you in an act of hospitality to kind of half of you move to the tables that have their backs to the front so that PNW doesn't get all of the privileged spaces. And we won't always do this because we won't have the opportunity, but we have a few extra minutes. Claim your space. But then as you go out and find Oregon, Idaho people, especially you in the front of the room, invite people to come join your table so we're filling in the front spaces and not just from the back. It'll help us move this forward. So God bless you for the work that we did this morning, and carry you back no later than 9:15.